Hello students, welcome to NIRS Education channel. Let us continue the lesson, a house is not a home. In our previous session, we came to know that the writer's house got fire. After that, writer and his mother came out of the house. But mother again ran into the house and she came out carrying a small metal box full of important documents. After that again she ran into the house. Writer knew that this time she ran into the house in order to bring pictures and letters of his father. Writer was about to follow her. That time he felt that someone was holding him. That was fireman. He tried to free himself, but fireman did not leave him. And he said, the firefighters will bring his mother back. Now let's continue the lesson. He wrapped a blanket around me and sat me down in our car. Then fireman, he wrapped the writer a blanket and he made him to sit in the car. Soon after that, the fireman emerged from our house with my mother in tow. Soon after that, fireman came out from the writer's house with his mother. Okay. He quickly took her over to the truck and put an oxygen mask on her. And fireman quickly took her over to the truck and put an oxygen mask on her. I ran over and hugged her. Then writer ran over and he hugged his mother. All those times I ever argued with her and hated her, vanishing at thought of losing her. And he was arguing with his mother. He was asking, why did you go inside the house? He was quarreling because he was afraid that he would lose his mother. She is going to be okay, said the fireman. Then fireman said, she is going to be okay. There is nothing to worry about her. She just inhaled a little smoke. And then he ran back to fight the fire while my mother and I sat there dazed. After that, the fireman ran back to fight the fire. Writer and his mother sat there dazed. Dazed means in a state of shock. They were sitting there in a state of shock. I remember watching my house burn down and thinking that there was nothing I could do about it. And writer was watching his house burn down and he could not do anything there. 5 hours later, the fire was finally out. Our house was almost completely burned down. It took 5 hours for firefighters to put out the fire. The fire was finally out. Our house was almost completely burned down. The house was almost completely burned down. But then it stuck to me. I hadn't seen my cat. Then suddenly a thought came to his mind. What was that thought? He hadn't seen his cat. Where was my cat? Much to my horror, I realized that she was nowhere to be found. Then he thought about his cat. Where was his cat? About that he was worrying. and he searched for her, and she was nowhere to be found. He could not find her anywhere. Then all at once it hit me, the school, new school, the fire, my cat. I broke down in tears and cried and cried. I was suffering loss big time. Then all at once hit me. All thoughts came to him at once. What are those thoughts? The new school. He thought about his new school, which was completely strange for him. He thought about the fire which had burned his house, and he thought about his cat. All thoughts came to him. I broke down in tears then and cried and cried. Then he cried and cried. Tears were coming out of his eyes. I was suffering loss big time. He was suffering from loss. He lost almost everything in his life. The fireman wouldn't let us go back into the house that night. It was still too dangerous. Dead or alive, I couldn't imagine living without knowing about my cat. See, the fireman wouldn't let them go back into the house that night. It was still too dangerous. Going inside that burned house was still dangerous. That's why firemen wouldn't allow them to go inside that house. Dead or alive, I couldn't imagine living without knowing about my cat. He wanted to know about his cat, whether it was alive or dead. He wanted to know about that. He was not ready to leave that place without knowing about his cat. Regardless, I had to go, but he had to leave that place. There was no other way for him. We filed into the car with just the clothes on our backs and a few of the firemen's blankets and made our way to my grandparents' house to spend the night. Then some clothes which were left, they put those clothes inside the car and they kept few of the firemen's blankets inside the car and they made their way to grandparents' house to spend the night. Then they moved towards writer's grandparents' house to spend the night. Okay, let us stop here. We shall continue in the next session. Thank you for watching me.